Hello everyone. My name is Mahnur Rashid. I am a student at UIC, majoring in IDS with a concentration in MIS, and I'm part of the Research AM project. I have brown hair. I'm wearing a brown t-shirt, and I'm sitting in my room. Theo, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Theo Bogeas. It's Thodoris in Greek. I am living and working in Greece, in Athens city. And right now I am sitting in my living room where behind me there are some masks from travels abroad, and also I have black hair, light blue eyes, and I'm wearing a sweater on a light brown color.
All right, thank you. We'll start with the questions. Can you start by telling me a little bit about yourself and your work?
Yes, I am an occupational therapist, and I have done my bachelor's at the former Technological Education Institute in Athens, Greece. Now it is transformed to the University of West Attica. And after 2, 3 years from my graduation, I have started my master's degree at Sheffield Hallam University in the UK. And I've been working around 15 years, and for the last 10 years, with a 2-year break, I've been working with displaced people, refugees, and migrants. And but also I have clinical experience with children with developmental disorders, with neuromusculoskeletal disorders, with community-based projects with schools and school-aged children on the secondary level. And also with refugee adults and children. And all the last 3.5 years, I have stepped up to managerial positions. I have been a coordinator of a social integration service, but also during the last year, I am a programs officer at an NGO. And at the same time, I'm also tutoring in bachelor programs in Greece, in Athens, Greece.
Okay, congratulations on your new manager position.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And it seems like you're doing a lot of work with NGOs and refugees. So how did you get involved in this work? Like, what was your motivation?
So I started around 2011, if I'm not wrong, with working with refugee and migrant children in a day center for the mental health of refugees and migrants. At the beginning as a volunteer, but then I got involved with a community-based project for the psychological resilience of teenagers and pre-teenagers. So my first work experience was there. Later on, with the great refugee crisis in Europe around 2015, with many Syrian people arriving to the Greek land, I had the need to do something as a person, because I believe that I have a political self. So I need to take really seriously my obligations and rights to my community's well-being. So I started with some very short volunteering, but then they were asking for people to could assess and support psychosocially refugee children, and at the same time know how to play with them. So I had all three, and because of my professional experience, but also from my as I was a Boy Scout, so I knew how to play with children. So I immediately started in refugee camps. And the first 2 years I was working with children and their parents at the more counseling level at the position of child-friendly space programs, which means very briefly, um, we were creating safe spaces, both physically but also emotionally. And we were playing with them, but also we were recognizing any vulnerabilities or needs, and we are trying to support them along with their parents, and at the same time, trying to have access to protection, child protection services, but also educational and leisure activities
Mm.
uh, within the communities that the refugee camps were close to. Later on, I moved to a more livelihoods program where because the crisis has there have been already 3 years after the crisis, the initiation of the crisis. So I moved to more social inclusion integration programs where I was supporting adults to achieve their goals and their ambitions, and also have access to services and understand the Greek context in all kinds of levels. And this service has developed, and after 1 year of practice, I became the coordinator and the project manager of the social integration service, where we also developed our service and we supported also. Um, we try to support more specifically not only the broader young adults, but adults in general, but also unaccompanied children that they transition to adulthood, victims of sex and gender-based violence, trafficking victims and survivors, and other young persons, but also homeless people, regardless of their legal status, ethnicity, and nationality. And within the last year, I have focused more to work on a more project management basis, not having so much touch with not providing direct services, but doing more back office work with projects.
That's nice. It seems like you were like able to bring a really big change to your community and help people of all ages with resources they needed. So in your experiences, what are the most critical psychosocial needs among refugees and asylum seekers in Western Europe?
Well, it is the political context and the social context, but these two, they are influencing really much the access to their rights and the ways that they will satisfy their needs. And why I'm saying this is because we have seen that a lot of people, they have been re-traumatized, or they have been suffering mentally and psychologically and psychosocially
Mhm,
by being excluded because for administration, technical, and political reasons, they have been excluded by accessing their rights, for example, to work or to healthcare, or they have been isolated to refugee camps in the middle of nowhere. So, and also they have been in overcrowded camps in the past, but now they are again, if they manage to transition into the cities as asylum seekers, they do not have the same level of support
mhm,
with people that they are residing in refugee camps. So these kind of things are really they are really they have been really challenging, and they still remain challenging. But also it has to do with the support and the continuum of support nowadays,
mhm,
because people, they have been at the beginning, when a person enters Greece or any other country, they need to apply for international protection. So then they are examined and then they receive the refugee status or not, the international protection status according to the Convention of Geneva. So during this period, which may last a lot, it might be 1, 2, or 3 years, depending on the situation.
Mhm.
The first 6 months they are excluded from work, for example, and this really hinders them by remaining active, by have the same rhythm of life, continue their daily life routines and maintaining their roles. So they are really challenging with the burden of empty time, as we call it. They have too much time and very limited things to do. So they have been deprived, occupationally speaking. So it is really challenging. And then when they are recognized, they need to leave really soon from the accommodation areas that they are residing and they have been offered by the state, and they need to support themselves and without having fair access to educational programs, language programs, um, when they were asylum seekers, but they are expected within 6 months to learn the language, find a job, find a space to live, and do everything. So um, it is really challenging to support themselves and their children and their families, and at the same time become autonomous and be settled in a new urban or suburban or agricultural context.
Mhm. I think it's really important for them to have like some help when they're transitioning from having the refugee status and not having it. And I know you explained that they were having housing before, but not working for such a long time kind of demotivates a person. So probably giving them a program, a volunteering opportunity to help them keep them like motivated throughout that time, I think would be really important for them.
Or giving them the right to work at the very
Exactly.
beginning, and at the same time offering language classes that they will have immediate access to
Mhm.
learn the Greek language very fast, because you know there are a lot of job opportunities right now on a low skill level jobs, but still they can offer a wage for a person to support themselves. So that would be a win-win situation for everyone.
Yeah. I think going into a country, the first thing you need to do is learn the language, like in order to fit in. So that would be the first step.
Exactly.
Um,
But
so you-
also, sorry to interrupt you, but
uh,
also there is also one more thing that I'm discussing about the context of Greece, because all the things that I mentioned earlier apply to Greece, but also to several other countries.
yeah.
Uh, but also another thing is that Greece is an entry point for Europe,
Mm,
and sometimes people do not wish to remain here. They wish to continue their journey and move to other European countries. But due to the political context, the processes that exist delays their settlement
mhm.
uh, to any country.
Um,
Either they decide to remain in Greece or move to any other country.
mhm. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. So you mentioned that you work with a lot of people in your community and in other communities. Do you have any success stories working with these refugees that you would like to share?
Well, I can mention today's message about a young girl that she has been a human trafficking victim, and she has survived. And I've met her about 2 or 3 years ago, and at that time she didn't have a legal status in Greece, and within the team, the multidisciplinary team, we supported her by gaining again status and apply again for international protection, which was really hard,
Mhm.
although it was her right, but still bureaucracy and administration procedures, and also by being undocumented,
Mhm.
really hinders ways of having access to even to claim your vulnerability. But this was a parenthesis. So this girl, she finally managed to apply, and she gained her international protection status, and she could find a job, and she was very successful. So she remains there for around 2 years, and she has studied in big data analysis. So, and now, and yesterday, she sent me a message that she entered to a university level program, that it is online, and they give scholarships for refugees. So she grabbed the opportunity, she passed the exams, and from today she's a university student.
Oh,
So
wow,
this
that's
is,
great. Yeah.
yes, and her dream was to study.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, fortunately, there are several opportunities where not with non-formal education
Mhm.
opportunities, but these allowed her to find an international university that she could admit her proposal to start.
Mhm.
So this is one. There are other people that they have found jobs. There are people that they have felt confident. There are people that they have returned to their community, and from people that have been helped, they have become helpers. I have in my mind a young person that he has his dream was to study also, but and when he was around 6 months before he became 18, which is the adult age for Greece. So he started studied coding, and as soon as he finished with his teachers, they have created a program for a community-based program for coding classes for other people to become coders and programmers too. So he has been empowered so much that he started immediately working, and now he's following his dreams. And
Mhm.
actually, he's in the US right now.
Oh, wow, that's great.
He has
That's
been
so
resettled.
nice. That you guys were able to like help all these people, give them resources they needed, and like that completely changed their whole life. They probably wouldn't even imagine that they were going to be able to find help, but you guys gave them the help and the dream. Um,
Well, it is, this is what you say is very important, because we think that these rights are, a privilege, where it is not a privilege, but they have become a privilege to have access.
mhm,
And that is why I'm trying also through my work to advocate towards that. And along with the World Federation of Occupational Therapists and a social enterprise called Reality Learning, we have created a short advocacy documentary about all these and our occupational therapy role.
mhm. That's really nice. So to conclude the interview, I have one last question for you. Do you have any recommendation for service providers like you trying to help people out? Any resources or any recommendations?
Well, as a recommendation is that to understand that we may be experts by knowledge, but every person is an expert by experience of their lives. So we need to really pay attention the priorities of the persons or the communities and how they identify them, so that we can enable them and empower them towards their ambitions. Now, as resources for people that have never worked before to the humanitarian mechanism system, as it's called, then perhaps read a bit from international resources about the humanitarian mechanism and how it works. Um, but also there are some specific programs that, depending on the crisis, on the level of the crisis, if it's in the very beginning or on the later stages, they can um, respond. So understand also this um, this model of crisis, as it's called, and specifically for occupational therapists, the learning platform of WFOT, the World Federation of Occupational Therapists, have some very good resources about disaster management, about supporting forced migration persons, and with online free courses. So, and it is open to any professional they would like to have some
Mhm.
asynchronous online modules.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe it's important to gain information before helping people out. So these resources will help them a lot. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. And I'd really like talking to you and listening more about your experiences and your success stories.
It's a pleasure to collaborate with you and the university and